What's up everyone, Alex here. I'm making this video because I wanted to share the hype I have with Final Fantasy XVI, which was recently announced during Sony's PlayStation 5 showcase. Well, that, and I also want to share the full trailer right after I talk about it so that I have an excuse to watch it again on the channel. While looking at the staff working on Final Fantasy XVI isn't an indicator of its final quality, I think there's much to be gleaned from learning more about them than you might think. To begin, Final Fantasy XVI is produced by Naoki Yoshida, who's the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. By now, a good number of you have heard about his incredible work on reviving Final Fantasy XIV, ultimately building it up into one of the most successful MMOs on the market, earning him a spot in the exclusive Final Fantasy Committee. This committee is a task force composed of a group of high-profile developers that oversees the quality of the entire series. Yoshida also runs Creative Business Unit 3, which not only encompasses Final Fantasy XI and XIV, but also the Dragon Quest Builder series as well. For many years, Yoshida has been largely a proponent of redirecting Square Enix's obsession with high-fidelity graphics to other areas of game design, citing that as the hardware improves, this obsession would require an insane amount of people to achieve. He demonstrated this during a GDC talk in 2015, citing that the ease in which Square Enix was able to create stunning visuals in the PS2 led to an unhealthy obsession with graphics over the years, ultimately causing a single flower pot in the first version of Final Fantasy XIV to be rendered in the same amount of polygons as a person in the game, with said object having been worked on by more than a dozen people. Does this then explain why some might have been underwhelmed by Final Fantasy XVI's visuals? While I can't speak for others' reactions, there are many indicators in the trailer that implies that what was shown was really early development footage. And given Yoshida's commitment to focusing on other aspects of game design, I firmly believe that the trailer's intention was merely to highlight how the game plays, which we'll get to shortly. Frankly, I think it's refreshing to see a Final Fantasy focusing a lot of its hype around how it plays as opposed to just how it looks. Many of us, after all, have enjoyed games with visuals that are more stylistic in nature over the years, and we never gave one iota about them. This does not mean, however, that Final Fantasy XVI's visuals are, for the lack of a better word, final. I understand that Square Enix is in a league of their own, so there's a high expectation for graphical fidelity. But if its graphics allow its developers to flex its gameplay in a variety of awesome ways, I'm here for it. This is what Yoshida has to say about Final Fantasy XVI.
Final Fantasy XVI producer, that's right, just producer, Naoki Yoshida here. How did you enjoy the trailer? The exclusive footage comprised of both battles and cutscenes running in real time represents but a fraction of what our team has accomplished since the start of development on this and all-new Final Fantasy game. In that span, the team size has grown from a handful of core members to a full-fledged unit that continues to polish and build upon what they've created so far, all to provide the players an experience unmatched in terms of story and gameplay. Our next big information reveal is scheduled for 2021, so in the meantime, I expect everyone to have fun speculating as we have a lot in store, not only for Final Fantasy XVI, but for Final Fantasy XIV too. Needless to say, I'll be working hard on both.
While game producers in Japan can be a bit hands-on when it comes to development, Yoshida's split time between 14 and 16 would require someone directing the latter who he can trust. It makes sense then that Final Fantasy XVI's director, Hiroshi Takai, has worked with Yoshida in Final Fantasy XIV in various capacities, serving as an assistant director on A Realm Reborn and as a development supervisor in the expansion, Stormblood. This isn't Takai's directorial debut though, as he directed Square Enix's The Last Remnant prior. Takai has been with Square since the early 90s, first working on Romancing Saga on the Super Famicom, so he's been around during the time when Final Fantasy transitioned from the NES. There's very few interviews of Takai online, but what we do know of him, we can glean from his work on The Last Remnant. While the game isn't everyone's cup of tea, The Last Remnant did feature a number of very unique systems that's made it a cult hit. Aesthetically, there are similarities between both games from the get-go, but again, it's all early footage. Whether or not The Last Remnant's political storyline is present in Final Fantasy XVI remains a mystery for now, but I think it's safe to say that the direction of the game is in good hands. here's what Hiroshi Takai has to say about Final Fantasy XVI.
When Final Fantasy I was released, I was just another player, a young student with big dreams. By the end, Final Fantasy V was in the works, and I had earned myself a seat at the developers table, albeit at the very end. From there, I moved online, leaving my mark on both Final Fantasy XI and XIV, and now 16. From the establishment of an all-new development environment to learning the ins and outs of PS5, the team and I have taken on countless challenges during our journey to bring you the 16th chapter in the storied Final Fantasy franchise. And though we're pouring our hearts and souls into this project each and every day, it may still be some time before we can get it into your hands. However, I promise it'll be worth the wait.
Unlike Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XV before it, Final Fantasy XVI will be a single-player action RPG with seemingly no party gameplay. While Final Fantasy XV dabbled in it, with Final Fantasy VII Remake doing a good job iterating, the idea of autonomous party members have always been an uncomfortable idea for some of the series' longtime fans. It's in this sense that I'm not quite surprised that Final Fantasy XVI's early trailer looked like as though it abandons this idea entirely. That said, the definition of a party can be malleable, and there's always a possibility that the game's hero will be joined by AI-controlled companions in the future. I'm immediately reminded of Final Fantasy IV in this sense, where the party grows or shrinks depending on the events in the story. In terms of its narrative, it certainly looks as though crystals are, once again, an important part of its story. Countries are at war, trying to gather crystals from across the land, whose magical abilities seem to be able to protect people from a corruptive force known as the Blight. As with classic Final Fantasies, each crystal seemed to be attuned to an element, though in this game, it also seems as though an entity might exist within them, with various characters being able to summon these into the world. This latter part is all speculation, but the characters mentioned do look as though they're intrinsically tied to these summons. Also noteworthy is Titan's representation in the game, which reminds me a lot of his appearance in Final Fantasy XV. Because of Yoshida and Takai's involvement, it is also rumored that Heavensward's writer, Kazutoyo Maehiro, is working on Final Fantasy XVI, who's had a lot of experience with writing medieval fantasy narratives. Heavensward is considered as one of the best stories in Final Fantasy history, and that's not hyperbole either. This single expansion alone is the reason why many players, who typically shy away from the MMO genre, stay involved and engaged with Final Fantasy XIV in the long term. You don't believe me? Just ask anyone who's played past Heavensward. I'll wait. While you do that, I want to bring up the mention of Final Fantasy XIV's composer, Masayoshi Soken, who has a distinct musical style that seems to be present in the trailer's music. Again, not confirmed, and, much like Yoshida, he'll be working on Final Fantasy XIV as well. In case you're unfamiliar with his work, Soken is one of the best Final Fantasy composers of recent memory, and he's delivered some incredible songs over the span of several years in Final Fantasy XIV. If it is him that's composing the songs for Final Fantasy XVI, you can expect an incredible soundtrack. Looking at the combat, it's very clear that there's someone at work here that has had a background in character action combat. This has led to the speculation that Ryota Suzuki, who had left Capcom upon the completion of Devil May Cry 5 and was subsequently hired onto Square Enix, is Final Fantasy XVI's battle director. Suzuki has not only worked on Devil May Cry 5, but also on fan favorite Dragon's Dogma. While again, not confirmed, it's not difficult to see that many of the protagonist's moves shown in the trailer are evocative of the attacks found in the aforementioned games, showing off air combos, quick magic attacks, quick summons, juggles, and a ton more. So I said a lot of things, and you're probably wondering what all this stuff means to me. I believe that Final Fantasy XVI will be a Final Fantasy like no other. Yes, it's true that there's been many experimentations with action combat in the series over the past few years, but no other Final Fantasy has ever made me dream of scenarios where I can chain combo and juggle a Coral or a Marlboro based on my character's own toolset, with previous attempts half-heartedly committing to some form of action gameplay that merely splits the series' fanbase in half. By wholly committing to being an action RPG, Final Fantasy XVI is the evolution of where the series has been heading towards for the past 3 decades, And with its staff and crew committed to honoring its past while paving a new way into its future, I have no doubt that this game will surprise and stun people the more we learn and see new things about it. Before I play the trailer again, I want to thank ChronoKatie and Dreamboum on Twitter for the information they provided, as well as TarksGauntlet and DrCullenPHD for helping me read the quotes in this video. They're all great content creators in their own right, so check them out in the links in the description of this video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below so we can talk about it. Thanks for watching, and enjoy this trailer!
You all know the target. Shiva's dominant. And only the dominant.
How do we even know the girl will be among them?
Our kind do not question orders, we follow them.
Sergeant, let's summon their icon.
Icon? That thing's a bloody mountain!
Our foe will not relinquish their mother crystal easily. This will be a bitter fight.
You should not be out of doors. We have discussed this. Come, Joshua. Your father will be expecting us.
I am Joshua's shield. I'm sworn to protect him.
What do you mean you refuse? Did you not pledge your sword to our cause?
What does it matter? It was the Dalmex who drove back the Crusaders in the Battle of the Twin Realms, was it not?
Without the blessing of the Mother Crystal, we cannot defend our realm from the spread of the Blight.
So, they sent in the Dragoons. Imperial Vipers. Do they really mean to invade us?
It's the Archduke's son.
The Phoenix.
Joshua! Stop this!
Second icon of fire. But that's impossible. The legacy of the crystals has shaped our history.